Hello, manager. This is Victor Marromo, your strategic planning and performance management coach and consultant. We've reached another Friday coffee break. During the week, we reviewed the wonderful opportunity that our managers, Bev and Sonia, gave us in order for we to learn how to establish communities of learning and development throughout our business units, throughout our departments, and throughout all of our organizations. In today's Friday coffee break, we'll be reviewing the 70-20-10 framework, which is the framework in which our CMS models are based. The author of our Friday coffee break is Mr. Charles Jennings, who is a co-founder of the 70-20-10 Institute and director of the Internet Time Alliance, a think tank of learning and business performance. Mr. Charles Jennings is really a breakthrough in the learning and development arena. This framework has been adopted in all type of organizations with wonderful results. This model is based on the methodology of peer learning of coaching ourselves. The mission of coaching ourselves is to rebalance leadership, to rebalance society, to develop communication, to develop connections, and to develop leadership in order to give our little rice grain for the rebalance of society, which is pretty messed up right now. Said this, let's begin. I hope you enjoy your Friday coffee break. I urge you to take some notes and to develop the exercise by yourself. We will be talking about some exercises that had to be done individually and in group. Please, at least the ones that are developed individually, try to develop them. Let's begin. Management happenings. As every Friday coffee break, I would like to develop something called management or economic or leadership or training happenings in order to start up our motors, warm up our motors, and start our conversation. Maybe one or two people open up and share a story. What happened to you the last week, the last couple of weeks that is related with our management topic as we are talking today about the 70-20-10 principle. Please, each person share and reflect on a story about something that happened to you or around you at work during the last couple of weeks. This could be a story about a recent meeting, an event, or a notable interaction. I would like to start with some interaction. This week, I learned that topic about top-down communication. That is a very important principle in management, in consulting, and in learning and development. And it's a very clear example. Imagine that your boss or your leader or your project manager came to you and said, "Hey, Mark, I've heard you've been working on the learning and development CMS groups. How they're going? How people are responding? Give me a little brief." So, we as human beings tend to relate stories like chapters in a book or uh, like processes. For example, yes, we started by talking about with HR, talking and telling about our CMS project. Then HR suggested us that we made it maybe 1 or 2 times a week. So we sent some couple of emails to some interested people that would like to benefit from this type of CMS meetings. Then we scheduled the meeting. We developed a little model like the right this thing about coaching ourselves, about the 70-20-10 methodology. Then we scheduled some calendar time in order for the people to arrive. Then the day came and we made the CMS model and meeting. We all talk in that way, in a process manner way. But maybe our CEO or our boss or our leader needs to have a brief. So we need to code that process and start making real to the point in a result oriented way. For example, yes, we had the first CMS group meeting. We talk about the 70-20-10 methodology, and there was good participation, and we developed 3 key insights that the 70-20-10 learning method will be oriented to our top 2 key stakeholders, that is employees and customers, because that are our main learning and development gaps that we have in order to reach our KPIs selected by our CEO. Something like that. We need to be more result way of talking oriented, at least in management or in work environment. We tend to do this because we think that by saying all the process that we went to in order to complete the first, for example, CMS meeting, so our manager can see sees that we talk with a lot of people, that we make a little bit of processes, that we send emails, that we talk to HR, to maybe employee, to other employees in order for them to give their opinion, and that is not correct. Our boss or leader truly has his trust that we have made all the work, that all the processes, but he needs to hear some results. Like we get the first CMS meeting last Friday, in our last Friday coffee break. We learned about the 70-20-10. We extract some key insights from the model, which are A, B, and C. That is all he wants to hear. So let's start talking that way, in a more result-oriented way, at least in our work and environment time. So this, let's begin. Here is the topic from today. The approximate time of the topic is 90 minutes, but we will try to cover all the topic in maybe 30-minute times. We already done management happenings. Let's read a little bit. Managers are effective at development when employees are more satisfied, more adaptable to change, and more committed to their organization. The 70-20 framework can change your organization's learning and development practices to create a more resilient workforce and culture of continuous learning. I will add that this methodology is more strategic oriented to our key stakeholders. So the objectives of this model, of this CMS meeting, are to appreciate the benefits of this model, understand the challenges that need to be addressed, and consider how all this could apply to your team, your department, your business unit, or the organization you work for. Let's pause a little bit and reflect. Please take out your pen and write a little bit. Take some notes. Reflect for a minute on your own most powerful learning experiences. Where did this learning happen? This learning happen at university or in an in-house course, an outside course, directly with your leader or manager, directly with your some peers, at some offsite, in a strategic planning offsite. Write it down and share. For me, the most interesting learning experiences had happened with this type of reviewing this type of models and talking with my clients at organizations. When you talk to people, you go to meetings, you start hearing problems, you start hearing how they solve the problems, you start developing trends or ways people make things, so you can propose better solutions, or at least you can propose some solutions in order to tackle the problems. That are my best learning experiences. Also at university, as a teacher, when I give some lecture, some students stand up and make questions or point out some key insights. And insights are our new capital intellectual capital thinks by how we can learn. So insights is a very important keyword, so keep that in mind. Let's continue. 70-20-10 reflects the way we learn. I have posed a previous question hundreds of times over the years, and the answers are fairly consistent. At least 80% say that they had this experience while completing a task, and no more than 20% say it was with a formal learning situation, such as a classroom. The 70% is the experience, the learning and development through day-to-day tasks, challenges, and practice in our day-to-day work. Exposure, which is the 20%, learning and development with and through others, from informal coaching, exploiting personal networks, and other collaborative and cooperative actions. Maybe exposure is this type of models and a little bit of education which we review some key keywords. Through structured courses and formal programs, like maybe if we set up a 5 model program of our coaching ourselves models. The numbers simply serve as a useful reminder that most learning occurs in the workplace environment. As I was telling you, when you hear conversations in meetings, you start developing trends and you start extracting insights to learn, to truly learn, rather than informal learning situations like the exposure and education. Each organizational culture will display its own blend of workplace, social, and structured development opportunities, depending on the organizational goals. So this, let's continue. Please try to take some notes within the experience, exposure, and education. Try to remember some interactions that you had in these individual type of interactions. Experience, exposure, and education. The 3 E's of learning. What are some key factors that helped you reach the position you are currently in within your organization or business unit? What were the most important steps in your development path? Do you have a development path or program that was set up by HR or LD or maybe your management or maybe some coach? Write it down, share a little bit. Through my time as a coach of strategic planning and performance management, I've seen that people develop more and better in a more effective way when they have some sort of development plans. But these plans have to be open, not mandatory, have to be voluntary. People have to engage and connect with other people in other departments, in other environments, in order within their organization, in order for them to truly learn and develop and really engage and get serious with their learning and development plans and with their strategic plans. If something is merely mandatory and compliance, yes, managers will make the programs and follow the paths, but they will rarely engage in with their development. And this is very true in the university academic environment. You as a coach or professor have some all type of mandatory courses that yes you take, but you rarely engage in them. And because they are almost all of them are virtual environments, you cannot you not connect with anybody. You only follow through the course within the IL on the platform, virtual platform, and you finish it. So after some time, you just forget about it and you don't engage and connect with anything and anybody. So it's not, I think that is not a good way of learning. Share some of your experiences. Write it down in the comment section. How high performers reach the heights. High performers, in no matter what field, tend to develop in a similar pattern. Firstly, they exploit structured learning and development, the 10 element. Then they have lots of practice under guidance. This is a combination of the 10 and 20. High performers are embedded in a professional community, as I was saying, maybe a CMS with colleagues and leaders who coach, mentor, and support them. This is the 20 element. The CMS is a pure example of the 20 element, in which people coach, mentor, support, and engage. To achieve high levels of performance, people need easy access to on-the-job performance support. This is part of the 70 element. Also, the CMS have the 70 element. So we have almost the 90% element of learning in our learning and development paths within our organizations. So put this in your mind. If you want to be a high performer within your team, your department, or your business unit, you need to develop this type of CMS environments and learnings. All high performers will have had thousands of hours of independent experience, practice, reflection, and feedback. Also the 70%. So maybe you can reach that, if not the 90%, maybe you can reach, let's say, the 50, the 60% in order to be a high performer. And that, my friends, is something that will put you in front of all other people because you will engage, you will connect, you will make professional communities of learning within the environment of our jobs. Remember, when you go to offsites and learning experiences outside of our organization, like for example in a university, we go, we learn, we make plans and say, wow, this is really breakthrough through information. Maybe we change our approach or open our mind. But when we return to our business units or organizations, we return to organizations that hasn't changed, that still continue to do the same processes, the same approaches. They are not strategic at all. They are merely operational. And that, my friends, is not good because our learning time will be just a waste of our time and resources because almost all of the time organizations or business units pay a good quantity of money for this type of learning experiences. So let's put a little example. Let's say that we want our owners or corporate to, to just increase the learning and development budget for the next quarter or for the next semester or for the next year. If we start doing this type of learnings, which we go out to some university or some hotel or offsite, and we go back to an change organization, merely the changes or the improvements that our organizations or business units have will be very little. Let's say the 10 element, and the 10 element just fades away through our day-to-day work schedules. And suddenly we start working as business as usual, office as usual. That is why it is very important in order to get real connections. Try the approach of going to the office at least 2 or 3 times a week. That way we can really build network of learning experiences within our colleagues and peers. At least in our first steps in our careers as junior managers or middle managers. Said this, let's continue. Experience, the 70%. Most learning occurs at work. Supporting an environment for experiential learning means recognizing that failure is part of the process, but that we learn from these failures. Here are some examples of experiential learning and development activities. Increasing authority and responsibilities, coordinating swaps and secondments, group problem solving, stretch assignments, covering for someone on leave, readings and research, such as reading guides and manuals, exposure to other departments and roles, taking part in community activities. Please share with your group the ways you're already integrating experiential learning, the 70% into your own development paths and into those of your reports. Maybe share 2 or 3 activities you could add to your 70%. And please, I urge you to read all the text from the pages and slides of our models. Sorry, sorry for our noisy environment. I record this within a cafeteria environment in order to be a little bit in touch with people, because sometimes when we work just from home, like we professional consultants tend to close up and stop learning about experiences. For example, in this cafeteria that I attend, I've started to see which people are more like proactive or more action oriented or more analytic or more customer service oriented, because they change roles day to day. Some people are very courteous and service oriented, but they lack the action mindset. So they forgot to bring your check or bring you more coffee or ask you if everything's okay. And they just get so involved in, let's say, the kitchen operations. That is just a brief example. So this, let's continue. exposure, the 20%. Remember, the 70 and the 20 are the most important types of learning. For knowledge to be usable, employees must, in the words of psychologist Jerome Brunner, think about the different outcomes that could have resulted from a set of circumstances. Conversations are a great way to do this. Trust colleagues and personal or team coaches can also help surface inevitable blind spots to accelerated learning. And this type of resolving these models is a very good part of the 20%. Mentoring or reverse mentoring, joining online professional communities, like for example this, project debriefing, using 180 and 360 feedback, holding manager reports one-to-one meetings, proactively learning through internal and external networks, keeping some blog or let's say insight management system within your own SharePoint or intranet, joining professional associations, and running these coaching ourselves sessions. How can you better blend in the 20% to your development activities? Please write down some 2 or 3 ideas and share your ideas with your group. As I said before, this type of coaching ourselves experiences of developing some models is a great way in order to reach out with our 20% learning exposure. If you don't have this type of activities within your organization, I opt you to be proactive, to be action-oriented manager, and reach out with your boss or business unit leader and talk about them. Launch some informal pilot model. We can help you with that. Just reach out and I will be very glad to help. I could be your facilitator and you can relax a little bit in your Friday coffee breaks, have some coffee, some cookies, and just chit chat a little bit about these topics. Get out some ideas, open your mind a little bit in order for your development and learning path to start getting to another point of upskilling or up learning. So this, let's continue. And education, the 10% structured learning. The effect of formal training increases significantly when the managers engage with the participants beforehand to agree upon learning objectives and afterwards to discuss learnings and define relevant support. This is also very important. Technical learning activities have a lot of education structured learning. Structured classroom programs, activity-based workshops, seminars and masterclasses, e-learning, the type of I was saying to you, maybe with our Blackboard environments, e-labs and other virtual learning environments, certifications. So I have a question for you. How can you more effectively align the 10% with the 20% and the 70%? Evaluate these 3 type of learning situations or exposures. So please set up each environment as it is a 100-point scale. How is your education within your organization? How is your exposure? How is your experience? Evaluate your 3 E's and get to a number. That way you can present to your manager or boss a better and more informed result. in order for he or her to see that you need to take action. For example, the 20% approach, which is the exposure. The role of leaders and managers in 70-20-10 implementation. The new work environment is creating additional challenges for leaders and managers, and this, is a virtualization. I've been with some clients within their virtual environments, and I don't want to be rude, but maybe 50 or 60% of all their meetings are just chitty chat. They rarely give some effective presentations or more business oriented or consultant way in order to tackle their challenges. They just go throughout all the day taking some courses in that mostly in the 10% type of learning, the compliance way. They rarely take notes. They rarely try to take some insights. They're very action oriented, but they don't stop. They don't reflect. They don't get new insights about how can they perform better. This research shows that less than 20% of workers are displaying high levels of productivity in the new network environment, the new virtualized working environment. Managers must understand how to break the trade-off between operational excellence and employee development. They are both important. They can do so by acquiring the focus and the skills to integrate learning into work. And these, my friends, are the perfect example of our CMS methods that we reached on our past newsletters, in which we set apart, let's say, 3 hours every month to develop this type of models about learning, about communication, about engagement, about connections, about insight development, critical thinking, in order to get the job done, in order to work more smarter, not just harder. So please keep that in mind. If you are a leader, you need to take a look at the 70-20-10 implementation to integrate learning into your work environment. Let's reflect. Take 3 minutes to reflect on one or more good or great managers you have had in your own working life. What did they do that made them a good or great manager? How did they help you on your own learning and development path? Try to stop a little bit, write some names, and share with your peer group. Draw up a list of characteristics of how good or great managers help people develop. Maybe use a whiteboard or flip chart. Take the initiative and say, okay, I have 5 most important characteristics that this boss taught me. And that really make a difference in my day-to-day experiences. I want to share some experiences that my manager told me and I learned about it. May- I write it down. Let me read it to you. This boss taught me that paranoia was normal in the job, but also taught me other things that actually work for me every day. Maybe some bosses taught you paranoia, and maybe that is not so positive, but they also taught you good things. Like, for example, I write three main ideas, and this I opt you to think and write them in your flip chart or in your whiteboard. Make jobs easier for those above you, especially if you want them to do something. For example, in communication, as I was saying before, in the top down communications, draft the email you want them to send. See if that email is just mere process and chit and chat, or you go to the point of results. Get on a call and take notes from them instead of asking them to reply to your article in writing or to your report. Send them one ask at a time. 2. Keep something in your back pocket for follow-up. Don't set a meeting summary plus all the asks you need them. As I was saying, show them the results. Show them the money before you ask. For example, say, here's one thing that you requested. Could you do this with it? Don't add a second piece of information or ask. That way, if they don't reply or do as you ask, you can follow up with, here's the second thing I promised you, and remind them gently about the first. This avoids an awkward. I was wondering if you had some time email and time consuming email in which he or she will have to stop and say, oh, what was that? Oh, yes. And he will have to go to read the emails and say, oh, sorry for not answering this, but I think that, and maybe he will answer in a dull way. That will not help you at all. And 3, join meetings early, not on time. As you know, in our virtualization working world, technology fails, camera angles matter. Your hair probably looks weirder on Zoom than in the mirror. Hop on early and fix all that you can so that you can start the call calm and collected. So, my friends, that were 3 ideas that I develop in a daily basis. Supporting development. Teams whose managers are focused and effective at development outperform peers whose managers who are not focused or are ineffective at development by more than 25%. And this, my friends, is a very strong data point. This is equivalent to working more than an extra day works every week. Beyond performance improvement, those who report to managers who are effective at developing their teams are significantly more likely to stay within the organization, be more committed to the organization's objectives than their peers, and more able to remain productive in times of change. One simple tool to help managers focus on developing their people is the 3 questions cards. And this is a very quick email that you can send your boss or business leader. This contains questions that managers should ask every time they meet one-to-one with any of their team to support reflective learning practices. 3 questions cards. Use this card in one-on-one and team meetings to support reflective learning. 1. Describe some of your recent challenges and successes. As I was saying, go directly to your challenges and results, not processes. Remember, you are set yourself your mind as a consultant, a business problem solver, not just the process guy. How would you respond differently to achieve better outcomes in the future? 3. What learning can you take away from these experiences? Can you see yourself using this card in your business, your CMS meeting, or the email to your boss or manager? Why? Why not? Pause a little bit, reflect. Let's create a future together. Based on what you have explored here today, discuss. Help each other figure out what needs to be done to be going forward. As a starter, each make 3 suggestions for actions. Try to talk to people in your, let's say, peer group, CMS peer group meeting or your Friday coffee break, and each of you make 3 suggestions for actions that are simple to do, are likely to have an immediate impact, will help create a culture of continuous development. Or maybe one action, but in order to improve this type of meetings or to solve a problem. Maybe some get up with the idea of why don't we make a call with a conference call, a little conference call with 3 clients in this meeting. And for example, if you are a customer success team, see what they think about your customer care service, the the product or service you are selling. Some generalities, nothing very fancy. Some ideas that they have, what will make them, maybe ask them, why do you buy our company rather than the competitor? Maybe he will give you some data, raw data about pricing or features. Be brief. Make that call to 3 customers. Take some notes. I will be pretty sure that after the 3rd call, before the 3rd call end, you will have a pretty good open panorama. You will have a trend. You will see, oh, these 2 or 3 clients need this in order for this to happen. Maybe in order to maybe upsell some product or service, or to buy more from us, or to be more satisfied with the service we are giving to them, the customer service. This, my friends, will help create a culture of continuous development. Talk to your key stakeholders. And the same if you need to talk with your suppliers. Why do they like doing business with you? What maybe you could improve together in order for have a more most in time deliveries and so on. Said this, my friends, we have continued. We finished this coaching ourselves topic. Develop your people, the 70-20-10 framework. Do you think it was a useful way to spend your Friday coffee break? Do you have any personal action items that you want to comment? Are you clear about what you each committing to do after this session in order for we to follow up in our next Friday coffee break? Write them down. And let's make a general email or small report with the results we get from these interactions. And let's copy our manager. I think he will be very glad to give some observations or even say to you, congratulations. Said this, we've reached Annette. I hope that this coffee break Friday meeting was useful. Let's start doing things in different ways in order to have different results. Let's learn. Remember the three E's of learning: experience, exposure, education. Do you need more education? Do you need more exposure? Or do you need more experience within learning of within your environment of your business unit or office environment? What do you think? Said this, please have a good rest of Friday and talk to you in our next Friday coffee break. This was Victor Marromo. Please like this video in order for more people to reach in. Thank you and have a really nice rest of Friday. Goodbye.